So my background is basically in literature and sociology. So I started like with my MA studies at the University of Warsaw in Poland. I started with those two kind of strands, and I kind of combined them in my early work. So my MA thesis were like kind of sociology of literature. So this is where I kind of started to go into this direction. And my first kind of contact with more computational studies was through something which is called empirical study of literature. So this is this kind of approach that you want to use methods of social sciences to verify some hypothesis about what literature is about, how it's perceived, the reader response, etc. So I kind of started to get involved in this a society for empirical study of literature, which again comprises of both, linguists, but also psychologists. And my own work was more like sociological. I worked, for instance, with readers in libraries, how they use literature in their lives, etc. And this kind of evolved into my PhD project, which was on remediations of literature, but also how literary authors kind of exist today online, what means they use. I mean, right now, meaning that it was already like 13 years ago, more or less. But this was my approach, and so then I also got a Fulbright grant to visit the United States, and I worked for a year at the Institute of Intelligent Systems at the University of Memphis in Tennessee. And this is where I mostly got kind of acquainted with some of the approaches for, computational language processing, natural language processing, and this stuff. And some of the stuff I used in my dissertation, no, not too much, because it couldn't be too digital at that stage because nobody would kind of review them. It was like too new, and so I needed to be like really cautious about the method. So it had to be literary because it was like a literary studies dissertation. And then after I finished my PhD and I got the title in 2013. I got involved in lots of literary projects with digital angle. In Poland was also the time where we started to do more digital stuff. So, for instance, I was a PI in the project developing the digital version of Polish literary bibliography. And we established also infrastructures like Daria, for instance, in Poland. So this was the moment we kind of put together the consortium, and I established the Digital Humanities Center at my institute, the Institute of Literary Research of the Polish Academy of Sciences. So more or less, it was this road, and then I basically got involved in more and more digital humanities or computational literary studies work. I would say that first of all, some work that we're doing is also aimed to kind of empower users who are not proficient with technology to perform even some simple tasks that can kind of they can use in their own whatever workflows the thing they do. So, for instance, for me, that would be closer to the closest I can think of. It would be like people, for instance, engaged in cultural heritage. I mean, it could be also citizen science or like kind of local archivists or something like this. So part of the work we're doing, for instance, in Daria PL right now is to provide, for instance, this easy to use service, which kind of helps you processing your text. So, for instance, getting in named entities out of the text or something like this. So, when you're preparing stuff for analysis or publication, or just want to kind of have a quick overview of the text you have, that's going to be used by like everyone, kind of. So that could be one thing. And the other probably would be more in terms of outreach activities. So like just trying to highlight the need for keeping up with standards, so if you're doing something, you're digitizing something, you just stick, to, FAIR principles or all this stuff, just to make sure that people understand why it's important to conform to standards, because they can reuse the content later on. And another angle I could think of is with work with on bibliographical data, which would be also kind of part of my work in Galway right now, would be mostly to also find the connections between bibliographical data collected in different countries. So it's also what we do in the institute, just trying to combine the resources. We're working, for instance, the Polish literary bibliography works with the Czech literary bibliography to kind of create a common search engine. So when you're looking for a person, you can already browse, two resources in your research. So this kind of stuff. So it would be more like kind of bridging the existing kind of resources and making sure that people who are using or who are creating some resources are actually doing it properly, so they could be reused by someone else. For me, it was always a great opportunity to, to go somewhere, focus on one thing, and always in my previous, let's say, research experience always worked best, because there's a moment you can kind of detach from distractions, and you're kind of somewhere, and there's like a new environment, interesting people doing interesting things. So it's always kind of creatively stimulating. So I thought, I should give it a try, and try to focus on my relevant research, to not to work solely on developing infrastructures or something like this, but also try to do something research wise. So that was my idea to apply. So the best way to understand my project is that I want to perform social network analysis on the bibliographical data to kind of look at the processes around the cultural change in Poland in 1989. So the thing is that current social network analysis works with like lots of data, with big data, social networking portals, data, etc. We have all this stuff, but my idea is to look kind of backwards and the kind of archival historical resources that could be used for the purpose of social network analysis. And it's, of course, it's not like my own idea. There are like lots of other similar projects around it, but this is like the way to kind of put it. So what I want to do is use the resources from the bibliography, but also try to mine some articles for connections between protagonists of literary life, and kind of try to sketch how we can see, the bigger processes of evolution of literary life, on literary change through social networks. So, for instance, how people get connected with each other, who's the most important person in that moment, and whether those kind of insights you can get from the data kind of match the narratives about this period. So the preliminary research I did for that project concerns, for instance, the ways the literary critics viewed this period in literature as kind of process of decentralization of the Polish literary system. So after the centralized state communism market, we get let's say kind of free market thing, and everybody now opens the bookshops, lots of new journals, etc., like this kind of freedom. But then we also see kind of re-centralization because the capitalist market kind of kicks in, you get kind of bigger publishers, etc. And I tried to visualize this process through the data, and it's really worked pretty well. So it kind of encouraged me to look deeper. And what I want to do now is to create this network of relationship between people and entities, and also try to trace the individual careers. Like, for instance, I want to focus on the career of Olga Tokarczuk, the recent Nobel Prize winner, who kind of debuted in the late 80s. So more or less, I just want to see how we can kind of try to take this data and kind of reconstruct somebody's career, like, where you publish, who reviews your work, and when and what kind of prizes you get, and how kind of does it change the position of the person within the network of literary life.